She thought one careless sentence at a charity gala would be the end of their story, but it was only the beginning. When Naomi Ellis overheard investment executive Ethan Cole declare he'd never marry a black woman, she could have walked away forever. Instead, she smiled, a smile that would haunt him, change him, and ultimately force him to choose between the privilege he was raised in and the love he never saw coming. What followed was 6 months of forced collaboration, a viral photo scandal, a brutal family dinner, and one man's journey from casual prejudice to the kind of love that dismantles everything you thought you knew about yourself. But when his senior partner's racist email leaks and threatens to destroy everything they've built, will Ethan's transformation be enough, or will the world they're trying to create together crumble under the weight of hate? Subscribe right now and comment where you're watching from, because this story proves that sometimes the most powerful revolutions start with a single, dignified smile. The ballroom glittered like something out of a dream. Crystal chandeliers caught the light and scattered it across the marble floors in tiny sparks. Men in tuxedos stood in groups, drinks in hand, talking about money and business. Women in expensive gowns laughed politely, their jewelry catching the light every time they moved. Naomi Ellis moved through it all like she belonged there, even though she knew she didn't. Not really. She wore a simple black dress, elegant but not flashy, and her natural hair was pulled back in a low bun that showed off her high cheekbones. At 28, she'd learned how to carry herself in rooms like this. She'd learned how to smile when people looked past her, how to speak clearly when they expected her to stumble, how to make herself invisible when needed and impossible to ignore when it mattered. Tonight, she was working. The Cole Foundation Charity Gala was her event. Every flower arrangement, every place setting, every timed entrance of the servers, it all belonged to her vision. She'd spent 3 months planning this night, and so far everything was perfect. "Naomi, the kitchen wants to know about the dessert timing," Marcus said, appearing at her elbow. Her cousin was tall and lean, always dressed sharp, always watching her back. He worked with her on most events, handling logistics while she handled the creative side. "Tell them 30 minutes after the speeches," she said, checking her watch, "and make sure the string quartet knows to start playing again the moment Senator Willis finishes talking. I don't want any dead air." Marcus grinned. "Yes, boss." She allowed herself a small smile as he walked away. This was what she loved, the control, the precision, the way a perfect event felt like music, everything in its place, everything moving together. "Excuse me, miss?" A server stopped beside her, looking nervous. "There's an issue with the champagne station." Naomi was already moving. "Show me." She spent the next 10 minutes solving a problem with the ice supply, redirecting servers, and ensuring the champagne stayed cold. By the time she returned to the main ballroom, the speeches were about to start. She positioned herself near the back, behind a marble column, where she could see everything but stay out of the way. That's when she heard his voice. "Honestly, I just don't see the appeal." The man was standing about 15 feet away, part of a small group near the bar. He was tall, maybe 6'2", with dark blonde hair styled perfectly back from his face. His tuxedo fit him like it was made for his body specifically. He had the kind of easy confidence that came from never being told no. They're attractive, sure, but there's always drama, always some kind of issue. Naomi felt her body go still. She knew that voice. Ethan Cole. The foundation was his family's. His face had been on half the promotional materials. "Come on, man," one of his friends said, laughing nervously. "That's a pretty broad statement." "I'm just being honest." Ethan shrugged, taking a sip of his drink. "My mother would lose her mind anyway. Can you imagine me bringing a black woman home for Sunday dinner? She'd probably faint right there in the foyer." The men laughed. Not hard, just enough to show they'd heard. "So you're saying you'd never marry one?" another man asked. Ethan didn't hesitate. "Never." The word hung in the air like smoke. Naomi's chest tightened. She'd heard words like this before. Different versions of the same message. "You're not enough. You're too much. You're fine from a distance, but not close, not real, not forever." She'd dated a man for 2 years who said he loved her. Then his parents visited, and suddenly he needed space. She'd watched him marry a blonde woman 6 months later. The hurt from that had taken a long time to fade. She'd told herself she was past it, that she'd moved on. But hearing Ethan Cole, standing in the ballroom she'd designed, eating food she'd chosen, surrounded by beauty she'd created, say that word so casually, it brought everything back. She should have walked away. She should have gone back to work, focused on the event, pretended she hadn't heard. Instead, she stepped out from behind the column. Ethan saw her immediately. Their eyes met across the small distance, and she watched his expression change. First confusion, then recognition, then something that looked like panic. He knew she'd heard. Naomi didn't look away. She didn't cry. She didn't yell. She just stood there, meeting his gaze, and then she did something she'd learned from her mother, who'd worked as a teacher in schools that didn't want her, who'd smiled at people who'd called her names, who'd taught Naomi that dignity was a choice you made every single day. She smiled. Not a big smile, just a small, quiet curve of her lips, the kind of smile that said, "I see you, I hear you, and I'm still standing." Then she turned and walked away, her heels clicking softly against the marble floor. Behind her she heard the silence, felt it. The men didn't know what to say. Good. She made it to the kitchen before her hands started shaking. Marcus found her there, checking on the dessert prep even though she'd already checked it twice. "You good?" he asked quietly. "I'm fine." Naomi. She looked up at him. Marcus had known her since they were kids. He could read her better than anyone. "One of the guests said something," she said finally. "It doesn't matter. If it doesn't matter, why are your hands shaking?" She pressed her palms flat against the counter. "Because I'm tired, Marcus. I'm tired of being the kind of woman men say they'd never marry. I'm tired of working twice as hard to get half the credit. I'm tired of smiling when I want to scream." Marcus put his hand over hers. "Who said it? It doesn't matter. It does to me." She shook her head. "Let it go. We have an event to finish." The rest of the night passed in a blur. The speeches went well. The food was perfect. The guests laughed and danced and donated money to whatever cause the Cole Foundation was supporting this month. Naomi made sure every detail was flawless, because that's what she did. That's what she'd always done, but she felt Ethan Cole's eyes on her all night. Every time she moved through the crowd, every time she spoke to a guest or directed a server, she could feel him watching. She didn't look back. She wouldn't give him that. At 11:30, the event started winding down. Naomi oversaw the cleanup, making notes about what had worked and what needed adjustment for next time. She was in the coat check area, talking to the attendant, when someone cleared their throat behind her. She turned. Ethan Cole stood there, hands in his pockets, looking uncomfortable in a way that seemed foreign to his features. "Ms. Ellis," he said, "I was hoping I could speak with you for a moment." Naomi kept her expression neutral. "Is there a problem with the event, Mr. Cole?" No, everything was perfect. You did an incredible job. Thank you. I wanted to—" He stopped, glanced around, lowered his voice. "I wanted to apologize for what you overheard earlier. That was inappropriate, and I'm sorry you had to hear it." Naomi studied him. He looked sincere. His eyes were a light gray blue, and right now they were full of something that looked like genuine regret. But she'd seen regret before. She'd heard apologies, usually right before the person went back to doing exactly what they'd apologized for. "You're sorry I heard it," she said quietly. "Not sorry you said it." He blinked. That's not what I meant." "That's what you said, though." She picked up her clipboard, held it against her chest like a shield. "You're not apologizing for thinking it, Mr. Cole. You're apologizing because you got caught. There's a difference. That's not fair." "Maybe not." She met his eyes directly. "But it's honest." She walked past him, heading toward the kitchen to collect her team. Behind her, she heard him say her name, but she didn't stop. She'd already given him more energy than he deserved. Marcus drove her home. They didn't talk much. When they pulled up outside her apartment building, he turned to her. "You want me to come up? We could watch something terrible and eat ice cream." She smiled for real this time. "I'm okay. I just need sleep. Text me when you're inside." "I will." Her apartment was small but hers. She'd decorated it carefully. Soft blues and grays, plants in the windows, artwork from local artists on the walls. It was her safe space, the place where she didn't have to perform or pretend or prove anything to anyone. She kicked off her heels, took down her hair, and sat on the couch in the dark. Never. The word kept echoing in her head. She thought about her parents, who'd faced worse than this. Her father, who'd been denied jobs because of his name. Her mother, who'd been followed in stores, questioned by police, told she was articulate, like it was a surprise. They'd taught her to be strong, to be proud, to never let anyone make her feel less than whole. But they'd also taught her something else, something her mother had said after Naomi's last breakup. "Baby, you can be strong every day of your life, but that doesn't mean it doesn't hurt. Let yourself feel it, then let it go." So that's what she did. She sat in the dark and let herself feel the hurt, let herself be angry, let herself cry a little, because she was human, and humans broke sometimes. Then she took a deep breath, stood up and went to bed. Tomorrow would be better. It always was. Ethan Cole couldn't sleep. He lay in his king-sized bed, staring at the ceiling of his downtown penthouse, and all he could see was Naomi Ellis's face. That moment when she'd looked at him, that smile, he'd hurt her. He knew that. And the worst part, he hadn't even meant to. The words had just come out, the way they always did. Casual, thoughtless. The kind of thing men in his circle said without thinking, because they'd never had to think about it. But seeing her face, seeing that controlled, quiet pain in her eyes before she'd smiled, had done something to him, made him see himself from the outside, made him realize how ugly those words actually were. His phone buzzed, a text from his mother. "Darling, the event was wonderful. Call me in the morning." He set the phone down without responding. Clara Cole was a good mother. She'd raised him well, taught him manners, made sure he got the best education money could buy, but she'd also taught him other things, subtle things, like who belonged in their world and who didn't, who was suitable and who wasn't. He'd never questioned it before. Now, lying in the dark, he wondered why. He thought about Naomi moving through the ballroom with such grace and confidence, the way she'd directed her team with quiet authority, the way guests had complimented the event all night, not knowing that the woman who'd created it all had been standing 10 feet away, invisible to most of them. He thought about her words. "You're not apologizing for thinking it. You're apologizing because you got caught." She was right, that made it worse. Ethan rolled over, punched his pillow, tried to find a comfortable position. Sleep wouldn't come. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw that smile. The one that said she was stronger than his careless words. The one that made him feel small. He wasn't used to feeling small. Finally, around 3 in the morning, he gave up and went to his office. He opened his laptop and did something he probably shouldn't have. He looked her up. Naomi Ellis, 28, owner of Ellis Events, a boutique event planning company she'd started 5 years ago. Before that, she'd worked for one of the big firms in Atlanta, then struck out on her own. Her website showed photos of weddings, corporate events, charity galas, all beautiful, all flawless. There were articles too, a feature in Atlanta magazine about rising entrepreneurs, a blog post she'd written about sustainable event planning, an interview where she talked about her inspiration, her mother who'd been a teacher and her grandmother who'd run a catering business in the 60s when black women weren't welcome in most establishments. She was accomplished, talented, respected, and he'd reduced her to a category, a type he'd never marry. Ethan closed the laptop and put his head in his hands. He'd spent 32 years being Ethan Cole, son of the Cole family, graduate of Princeton, executive at Cole Enterprises. He'd dated models, had his picture in society pages, made deals worth millions. He'd thought he knew who he was. Now he wasn't so sure. Sunday morning came too soon. Naomi woke up, made coffee, and sat by her window watching the city wake up. She had the day off, a rare luxury, and she planned to spend it doing absolutely nothing productive. But her phone had other ideas. 3 missed calls from her business line, 2 voicemails, 4 emails. She sighed and opened the voicemails. The first was from Margaret Wilson, the event coordinator at Cole Enterprises. Her voice was bright and professional. "Hi, Naomi. Margaret Wilson here. I know we just finished the gala, but I wanted to reach out about another project. The Cole Foundation is planning a series of charity events over the next 6 months. A traveling tour, basically. We were incredibly impressed with your work yesterday, and we'd like to discuss having you plan and coordinate all of them. It would be a significant contract. Please call me back when you can." Naomi's heart jumped. A 6-month contract with the Cole Foundation would be huge. It would put her company on the map in a way nothing else could. The second voicemail was from the same woman, left an hour later. "Hi again, it's Margaret. I should mention, and I hope this won't be an issue, but Mr. Ethan Cole will be directly involved in these events. He's taking a more hands-on role with the foundation going forward. I know you'll be professional, and we really hope you'll consider the opportunity. Talk soon." Naomi set the phone down. Of course, Ethan Cole would be involved, because the universe had a sense of humor. She poured another cup of coffee and called Marcus. "They want me to plan 6 months of events," she said when he answered. "That's amazing. So why do you sound like someone just kicked your dog?" "Because Ethan Cole will be my direct point of contact." Silence on the other end. Then, "Oh, yeah. Oh, what are you going to do?" Naomi looked out the window. The sun was fully up now, warming the city. People were walking dogs, going to brunch, living their lives. She thought about her business, about the contracts she'd worked so hard to build, about the reputation she'd earned event by event, smile by smile. She thought about her mother, who'd never let anyone make her quit. "I'm going to call them back," she said, "and I'm going to take the contract." "You sure?" "No, but I'm doing it anyway." Marcus laughed. "That's my girl. Want me there when you meet with them?" "Absolutely." She called Margaret Wilson back and scheduled a meeting for Tuesday morning. Then she spent the rest of Sunday preparing. She reviewed the Cole Foundation's mission statement, researched their past events, made notes about themes and logistics. She dressed carefully on Tuesday, a navy blue suit that meant business, her hair in a professional twist, minimal jewelry. Marcus met her in the lobby of Cole Enterprises at 9:45. The building was all glass and steel, towering over downtown Atlanta like a monument to wealth. Inside, everything was marble and modern art, and uncomfortable-looking furniture that probably cost more than her car. They were shown to a conference room on the 15th floor. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered a view of the city that took Naomi's breath away, though she tried not to show it. Margaret Wilson arrived first, a thin white woman in her 50s with kind eyes and an efficient manner. She shook their hands warmly. "Thank you so much for coming. Coffee, water?" They both accepted coffee. Then Margaret opened a folder and started explaining the project. 6 charity events across Georgia, each focusing on a different cause: education, hunger relief, healthcare, arts funding. The foundation wanted them to feel cohesive but unique. They wanted Naomi's creative vision. "The budget is generous," Margaret said, sliding a paper across the table, "and we're prepared to move quickly. The first event is scheduled for 6 weeks from now." Naomi glanced at the numbers. Her eyes widened slightly. This wasn't just a good contract, this was a game changer. "I assume you'll want to discuss this with your team," Margaret said, "but we're hoping—" The conference room door opened. Ethan Cole walked in, and Naomi's body went tight with tension. He wore a charcoal suit, white shirt, no tie. He looked like he hadn't slept well. "Good. Sorry I'm late," he said. His eyes found Naomi immediately. "Ms. Ellis, thank you for coming." She nodded but didn't speak. He sat down across from her. Margaret continued explaining the project, but Naomi could barely focus. She was too aware of Ethan sitting there, watching her, his expression carefully neutral. Finally, Margaret finished. "So what do you think? Are you interested?" Naomi looked at Marcus. He gave her a small nod. "Your call." She looked back at Margaret, deliberately not looking at Ethan. "It's a wonderful opportunity. I just have one question." "Of course." "You mentioned Mr. Cole would be directly involved. What exactly does that mean?" Margaret glanced at Ethan. He cleared his throat. "It means I'll be the Foundation's representative," he said. "We'll work together on planning and execution. I'll be your main point of contact." Naomi's jaw tightened. She could feel Marcus shift beside her. "I see," she said. "And you think that's a good idea?" Ethan met her eyes. "I think you're the best event planner in Atlanta. I think you'll do incredible work regardless of who you're working with." "That's not what I asked." The room went quiet. Margaret looked confused, glancing between them. Ethan leaned forward slightly. "Ms. Ellis, I know I offended you at the gala. I've apologized, and I meant it. But this is business. I promise to be professional, if you will." Naomi wanted to say no, wanted to stand up and walk out, wanted to tell him that some things couldn't be fixed with money and contracts. But she thought about her business, about the bills she still had to pay, about the employees who depended on her, about her mother's voice. "Don't let anyone take your dreams away." "I'll need creative control," she said finally. "Full autonomy over design, vendors, and logistics. You can approve or reject my plans, but I won't work with someone looking over my shoulder every minute." "Done," Ethan said immediately. "And I need it in the contract that if our working relationship becomes untenable, I can walk away with compensation for work completed." Margaret nodded. "We can add that language." Naomi looked at Marcus one more time. He nodded. "Then yes," she said. "I'll take the contract." Margaret beamed. Ethan's expression didn't change, but something in his eyes shifted. Relief, maybe, or something else. They spent another hour going over details. Naomi took notes, asked questions, outlined her initial thoughts. She was professional, thorough, brilliant. She knew it, and she could see that Ethan knew it too. When the meeting ended, Margaret walked them to the elevator. Ethan stayed behind, but as the elevator doors started to close, Naomi looked back. He was standing in the hallway, watching her. Their eyes met, and for just a second, she let him see exactly what she was thinking. "I'm doing this despite you, not because of you." Then the doors closed and he was gone. In the elevator, Marcus let out a long breath. Well, that was intense. That's one word for it. You okay? Naomi straightened her shoulders. I'm perfect. She wasn't, not really. But she would be. She always was. They stepped out into the bright Atlanta sunshine, and Naomi felt something shift inside her. This wasn't going to be easy. Working with Ethan Cole was going to test every ounce of professionalism she had, but she'd faced harder things, survived worse, and come out stronger. Let him watch me work, she thought. Let him see exactly what he said he'd never marry. Let him regret it. The apology came the next day in the form of a handwritten note delivered to her office. Naomi stared at the cream-colored envelope on her desk like it might bite her. Her assistant, Rachel, leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed, eyebrows raised. Well? Rachel said. Are you going to open it or just glare at it until it bursts into flames? I'm considering my options. Rachel walked over and picked up the envelope, examining it. She was 29, blonde, perpetually cheerful, and one of the best assistants Naomi had ever hired. She was also one of the few white women Naomi completely trusted, which said something. Expensive paper, Rachel observed. Actual handwriting. No return address except EC. This is either a love letter or an apology from someone who doesn't know how to text like a normal person. It's not a love letter, so it's an apology. Rachel handed it back. From your new business partner, who said something incredibly stupid at the gala. Naomi had told Rachel everything. She told Rachel most things. That's what happened when someone worked beside you for 3 years and never once made you feel like you had to be smaller to make them comfortable. He's not my partner, Naomi said. He's a client. A client you have to see multiple times a week for 6 months. Don't remind me. Rachel sat down in the chair across from Naomi's desk. Look, I'm not saying you have to forgive him. I'm just saying that if he's actually trying, actually making an effort, maybe it's worth reading what he has to say. Naomi sighed and opened the envelope. The note was short, written in neat, masculine handwriting on heavy cardstock. Ms. Ellis, I know another apology probably sounds hollow after everything I've said, but I need you to know that I've spent the last 3 days thinking about that night, about what I said and why I said it, about the casual cruelty of words spoken without thought. You were right. I wasn't apologizing for thinking it. I was apologizing because I got caught. That's the truth, and I'm ashamed of it. I don't expect your forgiveness. I just wanted you to know that I'm grateful you agreed to work with us, and I'll do everything I can to make this professional relationship comfortable for you. You deserve respect, not just from me, but from everyone in every room you walk into. Respectfully, Ethan Cole. Naomi read it twice. Then she set it down and rubbed her temples. What does it say? Rachel asked. That he's a coward, who's finally growing a conscience. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? I don't know yet. Rachel studied her. You know what I think? I think he's actually bothered by what he said. Rich white guys don't usually write handwritten apologies unless they're really feeling guilty, or unless they want something. What could he possibly want from you that he couldn't just demand as a client? Naomi didn't have an answer for that. The first planning meeting was scheduled for Thursday afternoon at a coffee shop downtown. Neutral territory, Margaret had suggested. Naomi arrived 10 minutes early, ordered a black coffee and claimed a table by the window. Ethan arrived exactly on time. He wore jeans and a grey sweater instead of a suit, and somehow that made him look younger, more human. He ordered coffee, then walked to her table. Thank you for meeting me here instead of the office, he said, sitting down. I thought it might be easier. It's fine. She opened her laptop. Should we get started? Wait. He leaned forward. Did you get my note? I did. And? She looked at him directly. And I appreciate the honesty. But Mr. Cole, I'm not here to absolve you or make you feel better about what you said. I'm here to plan 6 incredible events. That's it. Something flickered across his face. Hurt, maybe. But he nodded. You're right. I'm sorry. Let's focus on work. They spent the next 2 hours going over details for the first event, a fundraiser for education initiatives in rural Georgia. Naomi had ideas already. A theme centered on growing futures, colors inspired by Georgia clay and pine forests, local vendors, student performances. Ethan listened carefully, taking notes, asking questions that were actually intelligent. He knew the foundation's mission inside and out. He understood budgets and logistics, and he didn't try to override her creative decisions. What about having some of the students speak, he suggested. Kids who've benefited from the programs? I was thinking that too, Naomi said, but we need to be careful. We don't want to exploit their stories. Agreed. What if we let them choose? Offer the opportunity but make it completely optional. She nodded slowly. That could work. They fell into a rhythm. Ideas building on ideas. The conversation flowing naturally. It was almost easy. Almost. Because every few minutes, Naomi would remember, would hear that word, never, and feel her chest tighten. Would look at Ethan and wonder if he was sitting there thinking about how professional she was for someone he'd never marry. Ms. Ellis? She blinked. Sorry, what? I asked if you wanted to grab dinner. To keep working, he added quickly. Margaret mentioned the timeline is tight and I thought, no. The word came out sharper than she'd intended. I have plans tonight. She didn't, but she needed space. Needed to get away from his grey-blue eyes and his careful politeness and the way he looked at her like he was trying to figure out a puzzle. Of course. He closed his laptop. Same time next week? I'll have Margaret coordinate our schedules. She packed up quickly and left, feeling his gaze follow her out the door. Outside, she took a deep breath. The spring air was warm, the streets busy with people heading home from work. Normal people with normal problems. People who didn't have to spend 6 months working with someone who'd casually dismissed their entire existence. Her phone buzzed. Marcus, how'd it go? She texted back. He's not as terrible as I hoped. Is that good or bad? Still deciding. The second meeting went better, and the third, and by the fourth, Naomi had to admit that Ethan Cole was actually good at his job. He showed up prepared. He listened to her ideas. He pushed back when he disagreed, but always with respect. He never talked down to her, never assumed he knew better, and he never mentioned that night at the gala again. It should have made things easier. Instead, it made them more complicated, because Naomi started to see glimpses of a different person, the way he lit up when talking about the foundation's work, the way he remembered small details, that she took her coffee black, that she preferred morning meetings, that she had a thing about Oxford commas, the way he made her laugh just once, with a self-deprecating joke about his terrible handwriting. She didn't want to like him, didn't want to see him as anything other than the man who'd hurt her, but he was making it difficult. 3 weeks into the contract, they had their first crisis. The venue for the first event, a beautiful historic mansion outside Athens, called to say they'd double-booked. The wedding scheduled for the same night was refusing to move, and the venue was offering the foundation a partial refund and an apology. Naomi got the call at 8 in the morning. By 8:15, she'd contacted 6 backup venues. By 8:30, she'd ruled out 4 of them. By 9, she was standing in her office, phone pressed to her ear, trying not to scream. I understand it's last minute, she said to the venue coordinator at the Atlanta Botanical Garden. But this is for the Cole Foundation. 600 guests, full catering, sound system, lighting. I need your best space. Ms. Ellis, I want to help, but we're booked solid for the next 2 months. Naomi closed her eyes. What if we did morning instead of evening? A brunch event. Mornings are actually harder. We have school groups. I'll double your rental fee. Silence on the other end. Can you hold? Yes. While she waited, Ethan walked into her office. She hadn't heard him knock. I heard about the venue, he said. What can I do? Unless you can magically create a space that holds 600 people and doesn't look like a hotel ballroom, nothing. He thought for a moment. What about the Cole estate? She frowned. Your family's house? It's technically owned by the foundation. We use it for events sometimes. The gardens are beautiful, and the ballroom holds 400 comfortably. We could put up a tent on the lawn for the rest. Your mother lives there. She does, but she's traveled the country doing charity events. She'd understand. The coordinator came back on the line. Ms. Ellis, we can do the morning, 10 to 2, but I need confirmation by end of day. Naomi looked at Ethan. He nodded. I'll call you back in an hour, she told the coordinator and hung up. You don't have to use my family's estate, Ethan said, but it's an option. I'd need to see it. Today. I'll drive you. An hour later, they were heading north out of the city in Ethan's car, a sleek black sedan that probably cost more than Naomi's entire apartment. He drove carefully, one hand on the wheel, occasionally glancing at her. You're quiet, he said. I'm thinking. About the venue? Among other things. He didn't push. That was new for him, she'd noticed. The first few meetings, he'd tried to fill every silence. Now he seemed comfortable letting them sit. The Cole estate sat on 40 acres of rolling hills and old-growth trees. The house itself was ridiculous. 3 stories of white columns and black shutters, something out of a movie about the South. But the gardens were stunning. Roses and hydrangeas and pathways lined with boxwoods. a fountain in the center, string lights already hung between the trees. "It's beautiful," Naomi said quietly. "My grandmother designed the gardens. My mother maintains them." They walked through the space. Naomi took photos, made notes, measured sightlines. Her mind was already working. Where to put the stage, how to arrange seating, what kind of lighting would make the gardens glow at sunset. "This could work," she said. "Actually, this could be better than the original venue." Ethan smiled. "I'm glad." They were standing near the fountain when a voice called from the house. "Ethan, is that you?" Naomi turned. A woman was walking toward them, mid-60s, elegant in cream-colored slacks and a silk blouse. Her hair was blonde, going silver, pulled back in a neat twist. She had Ethan's eyes. "Mum," Ethan said, "I didn't know you were home." "I live here, darling." Clara Cole's gaze shifted to Naomi, and something flickered in her expression. Surprise, maybe, or something else. "And who is this?" "This is Naomi Ellis. She's planning the Foundation's events." "Naomi, this is my mother, Clara Cole." "It's nice to meet you, Mrs. Cole." Naomi extended her hand. Clara shook it, her grip firm but brief. "The event planner. I've heard wonderful things about your work." Her tone was polite but cool, the way some people could make a compliment sound like an observation of something vaguely surprising. "Thank you. Ethan, may I speak with you for a moment?" "Inside?" "Actually, Mom, we're in the middle of—" "It will only take a moment." Ethan glanced at Naomi apologetically. "I'll be right back." He walked toward the house with his mother. Naomi stayed by the fountain, pretending to check her phone, but she could hear their voices drifting from the patio. "Is this appropriate?" Clara's voice, hushed but sharp. "Is what appropriate?" "Bringing her here, to our home. It's a business decision, Mom. The venue fell through. I understand that. I'm just saying, people will talk. You know how they are." Naomi's stomach twisted. She'd heard this before, too. People will talk. What will they think? How will it look? "Let them talk." Ethan's voice was firmer now. "Naomi is the best in the business. That's all that matters. I'm not questioning her qualifications. I'm questioning the optics." "Then question somewhere else. Because this is happening." Silence. Then Clara's voice again, quieter. "You're different lately. Maybe that's a good thing." Naomi turned away, focusing on the gardens. She felt something cold settling in her chest. This was why she'd been hesitant. This was why working with Ethan felt like walking through a minefield, because no matter how professional he was, no matter how respectful, she would always be the black woman in spaces that didn't want her, the one people whispered about, the one who made people uncomfortable just by existing. Ethan returned a few minutes later, his jaw tight. "I apologize for that," he said. "For what?" "You heard." She looked at him directly. "Mr. Cole, I've been hearing versions of that conversation my entire life. Your mother isn't unique. That doesn't make it acceptable." "No, but it makes it reality." She picked up her bag. "I'll work on redesigning the event for this space. I'll send you mock-ups by tomorrow." "Naomi, we should go. I have other meetings this afternoon." They drove back to the city in silence. When Ethan dropped her off at her office, he put the car in park but didn't unlock the doors. "I meant what I said in my note," he said quietly. "About respect, about doing better. I know you did, but you don't believe me." She turned to face him. "I believe you want to do better. I believe you feel guilty about what you said, but wanting to change and actually changing are different things, and I'm not going to stand around waiting to see which one wins out." His jaw worked. "What if I prove it to you?" "You don't need to prove anything to me. Just let me do my job." She got out of the car before he could respond. The event came together despite everything. Naomi threw herself into the work, designing something beautiful and meaningful. She hired local musicians, featured student art, created centerpieces using books donated to rural libraries. The night before the event, she stayed late at the Cole estate, overseeing final setup. Marcus was there, directing the lighting crew. Rachel was triple-checking the seating chart. Everything was falling into place. Ethan found her around 9, standing in the gardens, looking at the way the string lights reflected off the fountain. "You should go home," he said. "Get some sleep." "I will. Soon." He stood beside her, hands in his pockets. "This is going to be incredible. You know that, right?" "I hope so. I know so." He paused. "Naomi, can I ask you something?" She tensed. "What? Why did you take this contract, really?" She considered lying, considered giving him some professional answer about business opportunities and portfolio building, but she was tired, and the garden was quiet, and maybe he deserved the truth. "Because I've spent my whole life being told what I can't do," she said softly. Where I don't belong, what I'll never be. And every time someone tells me that, I have two choices. I can believe them, or I can prove them wrong. She looked at him. I'm tired of believing them. Ethan's expression shifted. Something raw and unguarded. I'm sorry, he said, for being one of those voices. I know. Do you forgive me? The question hung between them. Naomi thought about her mother's words again, about strength and hurt and letting go. I'm working on it, she said finally. That's the best I can give you right now. He nodded slowly. Then I'll take it. They stood there for another moment, the lights glowing around them, the night air warm and full of possibility. And for the first time since the gala, Naomi felt something shift. Not forgiveness, not yet, but maybe the beginning of it. Go home, she said. Tomorrow's a big day. You too. I will. Right after I check the tent stakes one more time. He laughed. A real laugh, surprised and warm. You're relentless. That's how I got here. She watched him walk back to the house, and she felt it again. That uncomfortable awareness. The way he moved, the way he listened, the way he looked at her sometimes like she was a puzzle he couldn't quite solve. She pushed the feeling away. This was work, just work. But as she turned back to the fountain, she caught her reflection in the water, and she looked like someone standing on the edge of something that might be wonderful or might be devastating. She didn't know which yet. The event was perfect. 600 guests filled the Cole Estate gardens. The weather cooperated, warm but not hot, with a gentle breeze that made the string lights sway. The students spoke beautifully. The music was flawless. The food was excellent. And when it was time for speeches, Ethan took the stage and spoke about education and opportunity and second chances. Naomi watched from the back, near the catering station, making sure everything ran smoothly. Rachel appeared beside her with 2 glasses of champagne. You need to stop working and enjoy this, Rachel said, handing her a glass. Everyone's talking about how incredible this is. You should be proud. I am. You just need to relax for 5 minutes and let yourself feel successful. Rachel clinked her glass against Naomi's. To the best event planner in Atlanta. To the best assistant in Atlanta. They drank. The champagne was crisp and cold and perfect. Naomi let herself have this moment. Let herself feel the satisfaction of work well done. Across the garden, Ethan was talking to a group of donors, but his eyes found hers and he smiled. Not his polished, professional smile. Something smaller, something just for her. She looked away, her heart doing something complicated. Oh no, Rachel said. What? You're catching feelings. I am not. Naomi, I've known you for 3 years. I know your faces, and that face, the one you're making right now, that's your I'm in trouble face. I'm not in trouble. Keep telling yourself that. A server approached with a tray of appetizers. Naomi grabbed one, even though she wasn't hungry, just to have something to do with her hands. But Rachel was right. Something was shifting, something she didn't want to acknowledge, because acknowledging it meant admitting that Ethan Cole, the man who'd said he'd never marry someone like her, was starting to become more than just a client, more than just a reminder of old hurts. He was becoming someone she actually liked, and that terrified her more than anything. After the event ended and the guests left and the cleanup crew started breaking down tables, Naomi found herself alone in the gardens again, exhausted but wired. Her feet hurt, her head hurt, but the night had been a triumph, and she wanted to hold on to that feeling a little longer. You should be celebrating. She turned. Ethan was walking toward her, his jacket off, his tie loosened. He looked tired too, but happy. I am celebrating, she said, in my own way, which involves standing alone in a dark garden. Sometimes quiet is the best celebration. He stopped a few feet away. I wanted to thank you. This was everything I hoped for, everything the foundation needed. You're welcome, and I wanted to give you this. He handed her an envelope. She opened it. Inside was a check, her payment, plus a significant bonus. You didn't have to do that, she said. I wanted to. You earned it. She folded the envelope, slipped it into her bag. 5 more events to go. 5 more chances to watch you work magic. The way he said it, the warmth in his voice, made her look up. He was watching her with an expression she couldn't quite read. Admiration, definitely, but something else too. Something that made her pulse quicken. Mr. Cole, Ethan, please. After everything, I think we're past formalities. Ethan, she said carefully, this is a professional relationship. That's all it can be. I know. Do you? He took a step closer, not enough to crowd her, just enough that she could see the grey blue of his eyes in the dim light. I know what you think of me, he said quietly. I know why, and I know I have no right to feel the way I do, but I need you to understand something. What? That night at the gala, the moment you looked at me and smiled, something changed. I saw myself, really saw myself, and I didn't like what I saw. He paused. You made me want to be better, not because I felt guilty, because you showed me what better looks like. Naomi's breath caught. You can't say things like that to me. Why not? Because it's not fair. Because I've spent 3 weeks trying not to see you as anything other than a client, and you keep making that impossible. Good. It's not good. It's complicated. I know. Your mother is wrong about a lot of things. Your friends don't matter as much as I thought they did. She shook her head. Ethan, this is your guilt talking. This is you wanting to fix something you broke, but I'm not a project. I'm not your redemption. I know that too. He reached out slowly, giving her time to pull away. When she didn't, he touched her hand. Just her fingertips. The barest connection. But what if it's not just guilt? What if it's something else? She pulled back. I can't do this. Can't or won't? Both. She picked up her bag. I need to go. Naomi, wait. But she was already walking away, her heels clicking against the stone path. She needed space, needed air, needed to think about anything other than the way Ethan Cole had looked at her just now, like she was someone worth fighting for. She made it to her car before the tears came. Not sad tears, frustrated tears, confused tears, because part of her wanted to believe him, wanted to trust that his change was real, wanted to let herself feel what was building between them. But the other part, the part that had been hurt before, that had learned to protect herself, that knew how these stories usually ended, that part was screaming at her to run. She sat in her car for a long time, hands on the steering wheel, trying to decide which voice to listen to. Finally, she started the engine and drove home. Tomorrow she'd be professional again. Tomorrow she'd remember all the reasons this was a bad idea. But tonight, she let herself wonder. What if? The photo showed up online 3 days later. Naomi was having coffee with Rachel when her phone started buzzing. Text after text. Notifications from Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. She picked it up, confused, and opened the first message. It was from her college roommate. Girl, who is this man and why didn't you tell me? Attached was a photo. Naomi and Ethan in the garden, standing close, his hand reaching for hers. The lighting made it look romantic, intimate. The caption read, Atlanta's newest power couple, event planner Naomi Ellis and Cole Foundation heir Ethan Cole spotted at last week's charity gala. Sources say the chemistry is real. Atlanta society, a new romance. Oh no, Naomi whispered. Rachel grabbed the phone, her eyes went wide. Oh wow, that's a disaster. I was going to say unfortunate timing. Naomi's phone rang. Marcus, have you seen it? He asked without preamble. I'm looking at it right now. It's everywhere. Atlanta society blogs, local news sites, Instagram gossip accounts. Someone even made a TikTok about it. Naomi felt sick. This is going to ruin everything. Maybe not. Maybe it'll blow over. But even as Marcus said it, Naomi knew better. She'd lived in this city long enough to know how gossip worked, how a single photo could become a story, how a story could become truth, whether it was real or not. I need to call Ethan, she said. Already tried. He's in meetings all morning. Then I need to release a statement. Saying what? We're not together. We were just having a moment in the garden after an event where he basically confessed feelings for her. That'll go over well. Naomi pressed her fingers to her temples. This is exactly what I was afraid of. Rachel reached across the table and squeezed her hand. Hey, one photo doesn't define anything. You're still the best event planner in Atlanta. Your work speaks for itself. My work spoke for itself. Now people are going to think I got this contract because... She couldn't finish the sentence. But Rachel understood. Because he's interested in you. Because you're using your looks or playing some angle. Her voice hardened. Which is garbage, by the way. You earned this contract because you're brilliant. Try telling that to the internet. By noon, Naomi had received 3 calls from clients asking about her relationship status. By 2, a gossip blogger had requested an interview. By 4, someone had found her business page and left a comment. Must be nice getting contracts on your back instead of your talent. She deleted the comment, then another, then 5 more. Marcus showed up at her office around 5, carrying takeout. You haven't eaten, he said, unpacking containers of Thai food. I'm not hungry. Eat anyway. You'll feel better. She picked at the pad Thai while Marcus scrolled through his phone, his jaw getting tighter with each swipe. "People are awful," he muttered. "What are they saying?" "Nothing you need to read." "Marcus." He sighed and handed her the phone. She scrolled through comments on various posts. Most were benign, people speculating about whether they were together, discussing the photo, analyzing body language, but some were ugly, really ugly. Gold digger. Affirmative action at its finest. Rich white guys always think they can buy anything, even... She stopped reading and handed the phone back. "I told you," Marcus said gently. "I know." They sat in silence for a moment. Then Naomi's office phone rang. Rachel poked her head in. "It's Ethan Cole, line 2. Naomi picked up. "Hello? Naomi, I just saw the photos. I'm so sorry." His voice was tight with stress. She could picture him in his office, pacing, running his hands through his hair, the way he did when he was frustrated. "It's not your fault," she said. "It is, actually. I shouldn't have. That moment in the garden shouldn't have happened. I put you in this position. We both made choices. Still, I'm having my PR team draft a statement, something clear and professional about our working relationship." Naomi felt something twist in her chest. Relief, maybe, or disappointment. She wasn't sure which. "That's probably smart," she said. "I also spoke to Henry, my senior partner. He's concerned about optics." Of course he was. "What did you tell him?" "That my personal life isn't his business, but he made it clear that if this becomes a distraction, I understand." "I don't think you do. He doesn't care about me. He cares about you, about how this makes the foundation look. And some of the things he said..." Ethan's voice went cold. "Let's just say I now understand why you don't trust people like us." "People like you? Rich, white, powerful. People who think they can say anything because they've never faced consequences." Naomi closed her eyes. "What did he say?" "Nothing you need to hear. But I need you to know I handled it. And I need you to know that no matter what happens with this photo, your work stands on its own merit. Anyone who suggests otherwise will answer to me." "Ethan, you can't fight every battle for me." "Why not?" "Because that's not what I need. I don't need protecting. I need people to see my work and judge it fairly. I need..." She stopped, frustrated. "I need this photo to not exist. I know, and I'm sorry. But since we can't change that, we focus on what we can control. We release a statement. We continue working together professionally. And we let the work speak for itself." "You make it sound simple." "It's not, but it's what we've got." After they hung up, Naomi stared at her computer screen. The PR statement would help. The continued professional relationship would help, but the damage was done. People would always wonder now, always question whether her success was earned or given. She thought about quitting, just walking away from the contract, refunding the money, starting over somewhere else. But that felt like letting them win. The statement went out the next morning. Naomi Ellis and Ethan Cole are working together in a professional capacity on the Cole Foundation's charity event series. They have tremendous respect for each other's work and are committed to making these events successful. Any speculation about their personal relationship is unfounded and distracts from the important causes the foundation supports. It helped, a little. The gossip died down from a roar to a murmur, but it didn't disappear entirely. Naomi threw herself into planning the second event, a food bank fundraiser focused on hunger relief. She worked longer hours, answered every email within minutes, made every detail perfect. If people were going to question her competence, she'd make it impossible for them to find fault. The second planning meeting with Ethan was awkward. They met in a conference room at Cole Enterprises with Margaret present, a chaperone basically, though nobody said it out loud. Ethan was professional, almost cold. He barely looked at Naomi, kept all his comments focused on logistics and budget. When the meeting ended, he left immediately. Margaret lingered. "He's trying to protect you," she said gently. "In case you're wondering, I didn't ask for protection." "No, but sometimes people offer it anyway when they care." Naomi looked up sharply. "He told you..." "He didn't have to tell me anything. I've been working with that boy since he was 25. I've never seen him like this. Distracted, questioning himself, losing sleep over whether he's doing the right thing." She gathered her files. "Whatever happened between you two, it changed him. And I think it changed you too." After Margaret left, Naomi sat alone in the conference room, staring at the notes she'd taken. Her handwriting looked shakier than usual. "This is exactly what I was afraid of," she thought, "getting tangled up with someone who makes everything complicated." But the truth was more nuanced than that. Yes, the photo had been a disaster. Yes, people were talking. But underneath all of it, something real was happening. Something that scared her precisely because it felt genuine. She liked Ethan Cole. Against all logic and self-preservation, she actually liked him. 2 weeks passed. The gossip faded. Work continued. Naomi and Ethan maintained careful professional distance, always meeting with others present, always keeping conversations focused on business, never alone together. It should have made things easier. Instead, it felt like holding her breath underwater, waiting for something to break. The breaking point came at a venue walkthrough for the food bank event. They were touring a community center in southeast Atlanta, discussing table arrangements and stage placement. Marcus was there. Margaret was there. A few members of the food bank's board were there. Everything was proper and professional. Then the power went out. Probably just a breaker, the facility manager said. Happens sometimes when we run too many things at once. Let me check. He disappeared into the back. Everyone else pulled out their phones for light. Naomi and Ethan ended up standing near the stage, both holding up their phones, creating a small pool of light. This space could work, Naomi said, keeping her voice steady. The bones are good. We'd need to bring in better lighting, obviously. Obviously. Ethan's voice was carefully neutral. What about sound? We'll need to rent equipment. The built-in system isn't strong enough for what we need. Budget? I'll get you numbers by Friday. They were speaking in short, professional sentences, business speak. But standing this close in the dark, Naomi was hyper-aware of him. The smell of his cologne, the way he shifted his weight, the careful distance he was maintaining. Ethan, she started, don't. You don't know what I was going to say. I do, and we can't. Not here, not with... He gestured vaguely at the darkness around them, where their colleagues were scattered throughout the room. I wasn't going to say anything inappropriate. Then what were you going to say? She hesitated. That I miss talking to you. The real you. Not this careful, distant version. He turned to face her. In the phone light, his expression was pained. Naomi, that careful distance is the only thing keeping me from making this worse. Do you understand that? Making what worse? Everything. Your reputation. Your career. The way people look at you. His voice dropped lower. The way people talk about you because of me. I can handle gossip. You shouldn't have to, that's my point. The power came back on. Fluorescent lights flickered to life, harsh and bright. Everyone blinked, adjusting. Marcus appeared at Naomi's elbow. We should check the kitchen facilities, he said, giving Ethan a long look. Right. Yes. Naomi moved away from Ethan, following Marcus. As they walked toward the kitchen, Marcus leaned close. You two are radiating enough tension to power this whole building. We're being professional. You're being miserable. There's a difference. What am I supposed to do? The photo made everything complicated. People are watching, judging. So let them judge. You've never let other people's opinions stop you before. This is different. How? She stopped walking. Because this time, part of me agrees with them. Part of me thinks I'm being naive, that he's going to hurt me, that I should protect myself while I still can. Marcus studied her. And what does the other part think? That maybe he's worth the risk. So which part are you going to listen to? Before she could answer, Margaret called them over to discuss catering options. The moment passed, but Marcus's question stayed with her for the rest of the day. Which voice was she going to listen to? That evening, Naomi went for a run. 5 miles through her neighborhood, pushing herself hard, trying to outrun her thoughts. It didn't work. When she got home, sweaty and exhausted, there was a package outside her door. No return address, just her name written in familiar handwriting. She brought it inside, showered, then opened it. Inside was a book, a first edition of Toni Morrison's Beloved, the book she'd mentioned once in passing during one of their early meetings. She'd told him about reading it in college, about how it had changed the way she saw storytelling. There was a note tucked inside the front cover. I know we're keeping distance. I know that's smart, but I wanted you to have this, not as your client, as someone who listens when you talk. Naomi sat on her couch holding the book, and something inside her cracked, not broke, just softened, because this wasn't about guilt. This wasn't about redemption or fixing what he'd broken. This was about paying attention, about remembering small details, about seeing her as a person, not a problem to solve. She picked up her phone and texted him, "Thank you for the book." His response came immediately, "You're welcome." She typed and deleted 3 different messages before settling on, "Can we talk? Somewhere private." 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. My place. Tomorrow night, 7 p.m. I'll order food. She stared at the message. This was a line they hadn't crossed yet. His home. No colleagues, no buffer. Just them. She should say no, should maintain the distance, should protect herself. Instead, she typed, I'll be there. Ethan's apartment was a penthouse downtown with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. Naomi stood in the elevator riding up, her heart pounding, wondering if this was a mistake. He answered the door in jeans and a t-shirt, barefoot. It was the most casual she'd ever seen him. Hi, he said. Hi, come in. I got Thai. I remembered you liked it. The apartment was beautiful but surprisingly personal. Books everywhere, photographs of what looked like family trips. A guitar in the corner. It felt lived in, real. They sat at his dining table with containers of food between them. For a few minutes they just ate, the silence comfortable in a way it hadn't been in weeks. Finally, Ethan spoke. I've been thinking about what you said, about how I can't fight every battle for you. Okay, you're right. And you're wrong. She raised an eyebrow. Explain. You're right that you don't need saving. You're one of the strongest people I've ever met. But you're wrong that I can't stand up for you. Because that's not about weakness. It's about partnership. We're not partners, What are we, Naomi? The question hung between them. She set down her fork. I don't know, she said honestly. I know what we're supposed to be, client and planner. But I also know that when you look at me, I feel seen in a way that terrifies me. And I know that every time I try to convince myself this is just business, something inside me calls me a liar. Ethan leaned back in his chair. You want honesty? Always. That night at the gala, what I said, it wasn't just ignorant. It was protective. She frowned. What do you mean? I mean, I've spent my whole life in a bubble. Rich neighborhood, private schools, country clubs. The only black people I really knew were employees or athletes or entertainers. And my mother, my friends, the entire world I grew up in, they all reinforced the same message. Stick with your own kind. Don't complicate things. That doesn't make it okay. I know, but it explains it. And I think part of me said that word so casually because I was trying to convince myself, trying to maintain the bubble. Because once you step outside it, once you actually see people as people instead of categories, everything changes, and change is scary. Naomi's chest felt tight. So what changed? Why now? You smiled at me. In that moment when you should have been angry, when you had every right to make a scene, you just smiled. And I realized I'd spent 32 years being exactly who my world expected me to be, and it made me someone I didn't respect. He stood up, walked to the window, stared out at the city. My mother called me yesterday, he continued. She's heard the gossip. She wants to have dinner, wants to talk about the situation, and I know exactly what she's going to say. That I'm being foolish, that people are talking, that I should end the contract and move on before things get more complicated. Maybe she's right. He turned to face her. Is that what you want? I want... Naomi stopped, surprised by the emotion in her voice. I want to know if this is real, if you're really changing, or if you're just caught up in some idea of who you think I am. Come here. She stood up slowly, walked to where he was standing. The city sparkled below them, millions of lights in the darkness. You asked me once what I wanted, Ethan said quietly. I want to prove to you that this is real, that I'm not perfect and I'm still learning and I'll probably mess up 100 more times. But I'm trying, and I care about you. Not as a client, not as some project, as Naomi, the woman who turns impossible events into magic, who speaks truth even when it costs her, who smiled at me when I deserved anger and somehow made me want to deserve that smile. Naomi felt tears prick her eyes. Ethan, you don't have to say anything. You don't have to feel the same way. I just needed you to know. She stood there looking up at him, feeling everything she'd been trying to suppress bubble to the surface. The attraction, the fear, the cautious, terrifying hope. I'm scared, she whispered. Me too. I don't want to be someone's learning experience, someone's redemption arc. You're not, you're... He reached up slowly, telegraphing the movement, giving her time to step back. When she didn't, he touched her face gently. You're the first person who's ever made me want to be better than I was raised to be. That's not fair. What isn't? You saying exactly what I need to hear. It's not strategy, Naomi. It's truth. She closed her eyes, felt his thumb brush her cheekbone, felt her resolve crumbling. If I do this, she said, if I let myself feel this, you need to understand something. What? She opened her eyes. I've been hurt before, by someone who said he loved me but couldn't bring me home, who kept me separate from his real life, who made me feel like I was good enough in private but not in public. I won't do that again. I would never. You don't know what you'd do. Not until it's tested. She stepped back. Your mother wants to have dinner. Take me with you. He stared at her. Are you serious? Completely. You want to prove this is real? Then show me. Bring me into your world. Let me see how you handle it when things get uncomfortable. Naomi, my mother can be... I know what your mother can be. I heard her in the garden, remember? Ethan ran his hand through his hair. This is a terrible idea. Probably. She's going to say things that will make you want to leave. Then I'll leave. But at least I'll know. He studied her for a long moment. Then, incredibly, he smiled. Okay. Dinner with my mother. This Sunday. Fair warning. She'll probably serve something with too many forks and expect everyone to know which one to use. Despite everything, Naomi laughed. I know which fork to use. I know you do, but she'll test you anyway. They stood there, the tension from the past few weeks finally breaking. It wasn't resolved, nothing was settled, but at least they were being honest. I should go, Naomi said. It's late. I'll walk you down. In the elevator, they stood on opposite sides. Professional distance. But their eyes kept meeting in the mirrored walls. On the street, waiting for her Uber, Ethan touched her hand, just briefly. Just enough. Thank you, he said, for giving me a chance. Don't thank me yet. You might regret it after dinner with your mother. Impossible. Her car arrived. She got in, but before the driver pulled away, she looked back. Ethan was still standing there, hands in his pockets, watching her go. And for the first time since the gala, Naomi let herself imagine it. A future where this worked, where love was stronger than prejudice, where two people from different worlds built something real together. It was terrifying. It was thrilling. It was happening whether she was ready or not. Sunday arrived too quickly. Naomi changed outfits 3 times. First a dress, too formal, then slacks and a blouse, too casual. Finally, she settled on a navy wrap dress with simple gold jewelry. Professional but elegant. Not trying too hard but not trying too little. Rachel came over to help with her hair. You look beautiful, Rachel said, stepping back to admire her work. And terrified. I am terrified. His mother is just a person. His mother is Clara Cole. She's been Atlanta Society royalty for 40 years. She hosts charity galas with governors. She probably has opinions about which fork I use for salad. Then use the right fork and show her you're not intimidated. I am intimidated. Rachel grabbed her shoulders. Listen to me. You are Naomi Ellis. You plan events for the most powerful people in this city. You built a business from nothing. You have survived so much worse than one dinner with one difficult woman. You've got this. Naomi took a deep breath. You're right. I'm always right. Now go, and text me every detail afterward. Ethan picked her up at 6. He wore dark slacks and a light blue button-down that made his eyes look even more grey-blue than usual. When he saw her, something crossed his face. Appreciation, nervousness, maybe both. You look beautiful, he said. Thank you. You clean up pretty well yourself. Fair warning. My mother invited my aunt and uncle too. She says it's just family dinner, but she's definitely making this into a thing. A thing. Let's see if this woman is suitable thing. Naomi's stomach dropped. How many people? 6 total. My mother, her sister Margaret, not the Margaret from work, my Aunt Margaret, my Uncle Tom, and my mother's best friend Catherine, who's been like family forever. So, a full tribunal. Basically, he reached for her hand. We can still cancel. I can tell her you're sick. No, we're doing this. The drive to the Cole estate took 30 minutes. Ethan kept glancing at her, his jaw tight with tension. What are you thinking? He asked finally. That your mother is going to hate me. She's not going to hate you. Ethan, be honest. He sighed. She's going to be difficult. She's going to ask invasive questions. She's going to make subtle comments that seem polite but aren't. But I need you to know something. Her opinion doesn't change how I feel. It might change how you act. It won't. You say that now, Naomi. He pulled the car over to the side of the road, put it in park, and turned to face her. I brought you to this dinner because I want my family to know you, to see what I see, to understand that you're not some phase or mistake or rebellion. You're a brilliant, accomplished, beautiful woman who makes me want to be better, and if they can't see that, it's their loss, not yours. Her eyes burned. You say the most inconvenient things. Inconvenient. It's very hard to protect my heart when you talk like that. He smiled. Good. Stop protecting it. Let me prove I won't hurt it. They sat there for a moment. the evening light golden around them. Then Naomi reached over and touched his face. "Okay," she said softly. "Let's do this." The Cole estate looked different at sunset. The gardens glowed, the house warm with light from the windows. Cars were already parked in the circular driveway. Expensive cars, all of them. Ethan led Naomi to the front door. Before he could knock, it swung open. Clara Cole stood there in cream-colored silk, her hair perfect, her expression carefully neutral. Ethan, right on time. Her gaze moved to Naomi. "Ms. Ellis, how nice to see you again. Thank you for having me, Mrs. Cole. Please, come in." The foyer was exactly what Naomi expected. Marble floors, a crystal chandelier, fresh flowers on a table that probably cost more than her first car, oil paintings on the walls, a sweeping staircase. Clara led them to a sitting room where the other guests were already gathered, drinks in hand, conversations in progress. Everything stopped when Naomi walked in. "Everyone, this is Naomi Ellis," Clara said. "She's been planning our foundation events. Naomi, this is my sister Margaret, her husband Tom, and my dear friend Catherine." Handshakes all around, polite smiles, assessing eyes. Margaret was an older, slightly softer version of Clara. Tom was tall, distinguished, with the look of someone who'd spent his life in boardrooms. Catherine was elegant, sharp-eyed, wearing enough diamonds to fund a small country. "So you're the event planner," Catherine said. "The one from the photos." And there it was, less than 2 minutes in. "I am," Naomi said evenly. "Such a talented young woman," Margaret said quickly, trying to smooth over the comment. "Ethan's told us wonderful things about your work." "That's kind of him." "Champagne," Clara offered, gesturing to a server who'd appeared silently. "Thank you." They moved to the dining room. The table was set with china, so delicate Naomi was afraid to breathe on it. Multiple forks, multiple glasses, flowers in the center that probably cost what she charged for small events. Clara seated them strategically, Ethan at one end, herself at the other. Naomi in the middle, surrounded by the others. Divide and conquer. The first course arrived. Some kind of soup with ingredients Naomi couldn't identify. She watched which spoon the others used and followed their lead. "So, Naomi," Tom said, "Ethan mentioned you started your own business. That's quite an accomplishment." "Thank you. It's been challenging but rewarding." "I imagine the event planning business is very competitive," Catherine said. "How does one stand out?" "Quality work, attention to detail, building relationships based on trust and results. And presumably," Catherine continued, "knowing the right people doesn't hurt." Naomi set down her spoon carefully. "It helps, but it only gets you the first meeting. After that, your work has to speak for itself." "Of course," Catherine smiled. "I didn't mean to suggest otherwise." But she had. They all knew she had. Ethan's jaw was tight. Clara was watching with the expression of someone conducting an experiment. "Tell us about your family," Margaret said, changing the subject. "Are they here in Atlanta?" "My parents are. My father works in accounting. My mother was a teacher. She's retired now." "How lovely. Teaching is such important work." "It is. She taught middle school for 35 years, English and history." "That must have been challenging," Clara said. "Public schools can be so difficult." "They can be, but my mother believed every child deserved a quality education, regardless of their circumstances." A noble sentiment. The way Clara said it, like nobility was quaint but impractical, made Naomi's blood pressure rise. The second course arrived, fish with some kind of sauce, vegetables arranged artistically. Naomi forced herself to eat, even though her stomach was in knots. "I have to say," Tom said, "I was surprised when Ethan mentioned he was bringing you tonight. We've been encouraging him to settle down for years, but he's always been so focused on work." "We're not," Naomi started. "We're getting to know each other," Ethan interrupted. His voice was firm. "And before anyone asks invasive questions, yes, I care about her. Yes, this is serious. And yes, I invited her tonight because I wanted my family to meet someone who's important to me." Silence around the table. Clara set down her wineglass. "Ethan, no one is questioning. You've been questioning since we walked in. All of you." He looked at each of them in turn. "The comments about the photos, about standing out, about knowing the right people. You're not subtle. We're simply trying to understand," Catherine said. "Understand what? That I'm dating someone who isn't from your country club, someone who didn't go to the right schools or grow up in the right neighborhood?" "Ethan," Naomi touched his arm. "No, they need to hear this." He turned back to his family. "Naomi is the most talented event planner I've ever worked with. She's intelligent, creative, and professional. She's also kind and funny and sees the world in a way that challenges me to be better. And yes, she's black. If that's a problem for any of you, that's something you need to work through, because she's not going anywhere. The silence was deafening. Finally, Clara spoke. May I speak with you privately, Ethan? Anything you want to say, you can say here. I don't think that's appropriate. And I don't think ambushing Naomi with a dinner party inquisition was appropriate. But here we are. Clara's expression hardened. You're being unreasonable. I'm being honest. Naomi stood up. Excuse me, I need some air. She walked out before anyone could stop her. Through the house, out the back door, into the gardens where she'd stood just weeks ago. Her hands were shaking, her eyes were burning. This was a mistake. Coming here, letting herself care about Ethan, thinking any of this could work. She'd been naive, foolish. Behind her, the door opened. She expected Ethan, but it was Clara. Ms. Ellis, please let me explain. Naomi turned. There's nothing to explain, Mrs. Cole. Your family made their feelings perfectly clear. They were rude. I apologize for that. You were rude too. You just did it more politely. Clara winced. You're right, and I'm sorry. Naomi crossed her arms. Why did you invite me tonight? Was it to intimidate me? To show me I don't belong in your world? Honestly, I don't know. Clara walked to the fountain, sat on the edge. When Ethan told me he was bringing you, I panicked, because I saw something in his eyes I've never seen before. Real feelings, real connection. And it terrified me, because I'm black, because you're different, because you'll change things. Change him. Is that so terrible? Clara looked up at her. I raised Ethan to fit into a certain world, to value certain things, to make choices that would keep him safe and successful within the parameters I understood, and he's done that. He's been everything I expected him to be, until now. Until now. Clara's voice softened. Watching him in there, defending you, standing up to me, I realized something. I've been so focused on keeping him safe that I never asked if he was happy. Naomi sat down beside her. And is he? Happy? I don't think he was. Not really. Not until recently. Clara turned to her. You've changed my son, Ms. Ellis. I'm not sure I like it, but I can't deny it. I didn't set out to change him. I know. That's what makes it real. Clara was quiet for a moment. My mother, Ethan's grandmother, she was very progressive for her time. She believed in equality, in justice. She'd be ashamed of how I've raised him, of the bubbles I've kept him in. It's not too late, isn't it? Not if you're willing to actually try. Not if you're willing to see me as a person instead of a problem. Clara studied her. You're very direct. I've learned that polite hints don't work with people who don't want to hear them. A small smile crossed Clara's face. You're nothing like I expected. What did you expect? Someone I could intimidate. Someone who would be grateful for access to our world and willing to accept whatever scraps we offered. She paused. But you don't need us, do you? You've built your own world, your own success. I don't need you, Naomi agreed. But your son seems to think you're worth the effort. So I'm trying. Why? Because I care about him. Despite every logical reason not to, I actually care about him. Clara stood up, smoothed her dress. Well, I suppose that's something. She extended her hand. Shall we try this again? A proper introduction? Naomi shook her hand. I'd like that. They walked back to the house together. In the dining room, Ethan was standing, looking ready to leave. His face flooded with relief when he saw Naomi. Are you okay? He asked. I'm fine. Your mother and I had a conversation. Everyone was watching them, waiting to see what would happen next. Clara returned to her seat at the head of the table. I believe we got off on the wrong foot tonight. My apologies, Ms. Ellis. Please, sit. Let's start over. Slowly, Naomi returned to her seat. Ethan sat down too, though he kept glancing at her, making sure she was really okay. The rest of dinner was better. Not perfect. Catherine still made a few pointed comments, and Margaret asked too many questions about Naomi's business finances, but Clara made an effort. She asked about Naomi's mother, about her education, about her favorite books. Real questions. Curious questions. By dessert, the conversation had even become pleasant. You must tell us about the upcoming food bank event, Clara said. I understand it's at a community center. It is. We're focusing on partnering with local organizations that are already doing the work, supporting them instead of trying to create something new. That's very wise. Too many charities ignore the people who've been fighting these battles for years. Exactly, Clara nodded. I'd like to help if you'll allow it. I have connections with several food distributors. I could make some calls. Naomi blinked. That would be helpful. Thank you. It's the least I can do. After dinner, Ethan walked Naomi to his car. She was exhausted, emotionally drained, but strangely hopeful. "I'm sorry," he said once they were alone. "That was worse than I thought it would be. It was exactly what I expected, but it got better. Because you're incredible, you handled them with more grace than they deserved. Your mother apologized, really apologized." "I know. I'm still processing that." They drove back toward the city. Naomi watched the lights blur past, thinking about everything that had happened. The tension, the honesty, the small moment of connection with Clara at the fountain. "This isn't going to be easy," she said quietly. "Your family, your world, they're going to resist this every step of the way." "I know. Are you prepared for that?" He reached over and took her hand. "I'm prepared to fight for this, for us, as long as you want me to." She looked at their joined hands. His pale skin against her dark skin. Such a simple thing, such a complicated thing. "I want you to," she said, "but I need you to understand something. I won't shrink myself to fit into your world. I won't apologize for who I am or where I come from. I would never ask you to, not intentionally, but the pressure will be constant. The comments, the looks, the questions about whether I belong. Then we'll face them together." She wanted to believe him, wanted to trust that this could work. "Okay," she said finally. "Together." The next month passed in a blur of work and stolen moments. The food bank event came together beautifully. Naomi worked with local organizations, featured community leaders, created something meaningful that went beyond just raising money. Ethan was there every step of the way, not hovering, not controlling, just supporting. And slowly, people started to see them as a team. The gossip continued, but it shifted. Instead of gold digger and social climber, people started saying power couple and Atlanta's newest philanthropic partners. It wasn't perfect. There were still ugly comments. Still people who refused to see Naomi as anything but an outsider. But there were also people who supported them. Marcus and Rachel, obviously, Margaret from work, some of the foundation's board members. Even Clara, who called Naomi once to get advice on updating the foundation's approach to community partnerships. "I think she's actually trying," Naomi told Rachel over coffee one afternoon. "That's good, right? It's confusing. I spent so long preparing to hate her, and she's still difficult, but she's also human. People are complicated." "Tell me about it," Rachel grinned. "Speaking of complicated, how are things with Ethan?" Naomi felt herself blush. "Good, really good. Have you told him you love him yet?" "What? No, it's too soon. Naomi, you light up when you talk about him. You check your phone constantly to see if he's texted. You smile at nothing, you're in love. That's terrifying. That's life." That evening, Naomi and Ethan had dinner at her apartment. She cooked, nothing fancy, just pasta and salad, and they ate on her couch watching a documentary about event planning disasters. "This is nice," Ethan said, leaning back against the cushions. "Eating on the couch? Being normal, not worrying about who's watching or what people will say." She set down her plate. "Do you miss it? Your old life? Before things got complicated?" "No. That life was comfortable but empty. This," he gestured between them, "this is real. This matters. Even when it's hard? Especially when it's hard." She studied him. "You've changed, you know, since that night at the gala." "I hope so. I don't just mean your views on race or dating or whatever. I mean you seem lighter, happier. I am happier, because of you. That's a lot of pressure to put on one person." He shifted to face her fully. "You're right, let me rephrase. I'm happier because meeting you made me question everything I thought I knew about myself, and in questioning it, I found out I actually like the person I'm becoming. The person who stands up to his mother, who calls out his colleagues when they're wrong, who values substance over status. And you think I did that? I know you did. That smile, the one you gave me that night, it haunted me, because I saw my own ugliness reflected back at me, and I had to choose whether to ignore it or confront it." He took her hand. "I chose confrontation because of you." Naomi's eyes burned. "I need to tell you something." "Okay. I was so angry at you for weeks. I held on to that anger because it felt safer than the alternative, which was admitting that I was falling for you. Admitting that despite everything logical and self-protective, I actually wanted this to work." Ethan's breath caught. "Naomi, I'm not saying I love you, not yet, but I'm saying I could. I'm saying you've made me believe in possibilities I'd given up on, and that terrifies me. But it also—" She stopped, searching for the right words. "It also makes me feel alive in a way I haven't in years." He pulled her close, wrapped his arms around her. She let herself sink into the embrace, feeling safe in a way that still surprised her. "I love you," he said quietly. "I know it's fast. I know we're still figuring things out, but I love you. And I'm going to keep loving you through every complication and challenge and difficult dinner with my family." She pulled back to look at him. "You can't just say that." "Why not?" "Because now I have to decide whether to say it back or make you wait and suffer." He laughed. "I'll wait. I'm patient." "You're really not." "I'll learn." She kissed him then, soft at first, then deeper, saying with actions what she wasn't quite ready to say with words. When they broke apart, he touched her face gently. "I'm still learning," he said. "Still growing, still making mistakes. But I need you to know I'm committed to this, to us, to building something real." "I know. And when you're ready to say it back, I'll say it, I promise." 3 months later, they stood in the same ballroom where everything had started. The final charity gala, the culmination of 6 months of work. The room looked completely different than it had that first night. Naomi had designed it around themes of growth and transformation. Trees in pots lined the walls, their branches strung with lights. Tables were decorated with plants that guests could take home and continue growing. The program featured stories of change, people who'd been helped by the foundation's work and had gone on to help others. Naomi stood in her usual spot near the back, watching everything come together. 600 guests, flawless execution, her best work yet. Ethan found her there. He'd been circulating, greeting donors, giving his speech, but now he stood beside her, shoulder to shoulder. "You did it," he said. "We did it." "No, this was all you. I just stayed out of your way." She smiled. "You did more than that." On stage, Clara was speaking, talking about the foundation's growth, about new partnerships with community organizations, about learning to listen to voices that had been ignored for too long. She caught Naomi's eye and nodded, a small gesture of respect. "My mother's actually doing well up there," Ethan said. "She is. You were right about her being willing to change. Slowly, very slowly. Still counts." The speeches ended. Music started. Guests began moving toward the dance floor. Ethan turned to Naomi. "Dance with me?" he asked. "People will talk. Let them." He led her onto the dance floor, and this time, instead of hiding in the back, instead of keeping distance, she let herself be seen. Let the whole room watch as she danced with the man she'd been terrified to care about. Marcus appeared with Rachel. They danced beside them, Marcus grinning like he'd won a bet. "You two look sickeningly happy," he said. "We are," Naomi said simply. "Good. About time." The song ended. Another began. Couples swirled around them, and somewhere in the crowd, Naomi heard someone whisper, "Aren't they a beautiful couple?" Not a beautiful mixed couple, not a controversial couple, just beautiful progress. Later that night, after the guests left and the cleanup crew started breaking down tables, Ethan took Naomi back to the fountain in the garden, the same place where she'd confronted his mother, the same place where so much had changed. "I have something for you," he said. "Ethan, I told you, no gifts after events. It's too much. This isn't for the event. This is for us." He pulled a small box from his pocket, not a ring box, something else. Inside was a key. "It's to my apartment," he said. "I want you to have your own space there. I want us to start building something together. No pressure, no expectations, just possibility." Naomi held the key, feeling its weight. This was real. This was commitment. "I love you," she said. He stared at her. "What?" "I love you. I've been trying to figure out when to say it, how to say it, and I realized, right now, right here, where everything started, I love you, Ethan Cole. Despite every logical reason not to, despite all the complications, I love you." He pulled her close and kissed her, deep and long and full of promise. When they broke apart, both of them were smiling. "I have one condition," she said. "Anything. You keep learning, keep growing, keep questioning the world you grew up in, because that's the man I fell in love with. Not the one who had all the answers, but the one who was brave enough to admit he didn't. I promise." They stood there in the garden, under the string lights, holding each other, two people from different worlds who'd found something neither of them had been looking for. Love. Real, complicated, imperfect love. The kind that changed people. The kind that lasted. 1 year later, the ballroom glittered exactly the way it had that first night. Same chandeliers, same marble floors, same elegant crowd, but everything was different. Naomi stood near the entrance, checking last-minute details. This wasn't just another event. This was her and Ethan's engagement party. their way of celebrating with the people who mattered. Clara approached, elegant in silver silk. "Everything looks beautiful, dear. Thank you. And thank you for hosting. It's my pleasure. Besides, your mother did most of the planning." Naomi smiled. Her mother and Clara had become unlikely friends over the past year, bonding over gardening and books and their shared frustration with their adult children's stubbornness. Marcus and Rachel were already on the dance floor, laughing about something. Naomi's parents were talking with Ethan's aunt and uncle, who'd both apologized profusely after that first dinner and had spent the past year proving they meant it. And Ethan stood near the stage, adjusting his tie nervously. When he saw her, his face lit up. He walked over, took her hand. "Ready? For what?" "I want to say something. To everyone." "Ethan, we agreed. No big speeches. Just a small one, please." She nodded and he led her to the stage. The music quieted. Everyone turned to watch. "Thank you all for being here," Ethan said. His voice carried across the room. "A year ago, I stood in this ballroom and said something unforgivably ignorant. I hurt someone who didn't deserve it, and I revealed exactly how much growing I needed to do." The room was silent, listening. That person, Naomi, she could have written me off. She had every reason to. Instead, she gave me a chance to prove I could change. And in doing that, she changed my life. He turned to her. "You taught me that love isn't about finding someone who fits into your world. It's about being brave enough to build a new world together. A better world." Tears streamed down Naomi's face. "You taught me that words matter, that actions matter, that every day we choose what kind of people we want to be. And every day since I met you, I've chosen to be someone worthy of you." He pulled a small box from his pocket, opened it. A ring sparkled inside. Simple, elegant, perfect. "Wait," Naomi said. "You already proposed. We're already engaged." "I know, but I realized I never apologized the right way, never made it public. Never let everyone see me acknowledge what I did wrong and what you've given me." He got down on one knee. "So I'm doing it now, in the same room where I hurt you, in front of everyone who matters. Naomi Ellis, I love you. I respect you. I'm still learning from you every single day. Will you marry me?" She laughed through her tears. "Yes." Again. "Always yes." He slid the ring onto her finger. It fit perfectly, and stood to kiss her. The room erupted in applause. As they held each other, Naomi looked out at the crowd, her parents beaming with pride, Marcus and Rachel cheering loudly, Clara dabbing her eyes with a handkerchief. All these people who'd witnessed their journey, who'd seen the struggles and the growth and the love that had emerged from an impossible beginning. "I love you," Ethan whispered. "I love you too." And in that moment, Naomi understood something her mother had told her years ago. The most powerful love stories aren't the easy ones. They're the ones where people choose each other every day, despite obstacles, despite fear, despite the voices that say it won't work. She'd chosen him, he'd chosen her, and together, they'd chosen to prove that love could dismantle prejudice, that hearts could change, that two people brave enough to be vulnerable could build something beautiful from broken beginnings. The music started again. They danced in the center of the room, surrounded by joy, exactly where they belonged. Together. Epilogue. 5 years later, Naomi stood in a hospital room holding their daughter. She had Ethan's grey-blue eyes and Naomi's dark curls. She was perfect. Ethan sat beside the bed, looking at both of them with an expression of absolute wonder. "She's beautiful," he whispered. "She is. What should we name her?" They'd been debating names for months, never agreeing, always finding something wrong with each suggestion. But now, looking at her daughter, Naomi knew. "Grace," she said, "because grace is what brought us here. Your grace in being willing to change, my grace in being willing to forgive, the grace that let us build this life together." Ethan's eyes filled with tears. "Grace Cole, it's perfect." Clara knocked softly and entered, followed by Naomi's parents. They crowded around the bed, cooing over the baby, taking turns holding her. "She looks like both of you," Naomi's mother said. "The best of both worlds," Clara added. Naomi and Ethan exchanged a smile. 5 years ago, those two women could barely be civil to each other. Now they were planning joint grandmother duties. That night, after everyone left and baby Grace was sleeping in her bassinet, Naomi and Ethan lay in the hospital bed together, exhausted but happy. "Do you ever think about that night?" Ethan asked. "At the gala?" "Sometimes. Do you regret not walking away?" She thought about it, about all the pain and growth and struggle that had brought them here, about the dinner with his family, about the gossip and the doubts and the moments when it would have been easier to quit. "No," she said finally, "because that night taught me something important." "What?" "That the most meaningful changes come from the hardest moments, that people can grow if they're brave enough to be uncomfortable. That love isn't about finding someone perfect, it's about finding someone willing to become better." He kissed her forehead. "You made me better. We made each other better." They lay there in the quiet hospital room, their daughter sleeping peacefully nearby. And Naomi thought about that smile, the one she'd given Ethan in the ballroom that first night, the smile that had said, "I see you, and I'm still standing." She'd been standing then, she was still standing now. But this time, she wasn't standing alone. She was standing beside someone who'd proven that change was possible, that love could cross any divide, that two people from different worlds could build a bridge between them, a bridge made of honesty and vulnerability, and the daily choice to keep choosing each other. It hadn't been easy, but it had been worth it. Every single moment. The end.